4:30. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4:30. If we'd like to begin, I'll ask that you please rise. We'll start with a moment of silence and follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could have a roll call, please.
Brad Hess.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Wayne Barahona. Tom Eggers.
Here. Okay. Next item up is the approval of the agenda. Take a motion for that.
So moved.
Support. Any questions or comments?
I would want to change something on the cassette agenda. Do you want me to do that now, or?
Yeah, that's
Then
fine.
I would like to remove the J and put it on the normal agenda.
Separate discussion on the item J.
Right.
Okay. All right, with that change, roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
All right. At this time, we are going to the public forum of our meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council at this time? Seeing no action, and there were no written comments?
None.
Okay. Then let's move on to the consent agenda, approving that with the item J moved out for separate discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Right. Under item 6, under new business, I would like to open the public hearing for the discussion regarding the 511 6th Avenue cleanup, the Doug Koister property. Anyone wishing to address the council regarding that matter? Any comments?
We could have Steve Hogren.
Yes, sir.
Enforcement.
Is this part of the public, public hearing? Okay, very good. Welcome,
Hi,
Steve.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Steve Hallgren, I'm the city's contracted zoning administrator and code enforcement officer. So I've been working with city staff on this particular property over the past couple of months. We went through the process. We originally started out with citizen complaints and went from there. We reviewed the property on multiple occasions, photo documented everything, finally went into a formal nuisance abatement letter, gave the property owner time to remediate the issues, especially with the mowing, the weeds, and then the accumulation of the nuisance materials in the front yard and rear yard. And after nothing was done within the given time frame period, the city staff moved forward. I communicated with city's legal staff. We issued a municipal infraction and then a citation against the property for not following the nuisance abatement. So that's kind of where we're at. I'd be glad to answer any questions from anybody.
So in that time frame, how many contacts, or how many, was it typically by mail, or how did you address the issue with Mr. Koistra?
I personally addressed the issue through a formal nuisance abatement letter.
Okay.
I had been by his property on multiple occasions, but I had never approached the homeowner, never went up to the door. I just photo documented stuff from public property, and that's what I do on all of the nuisance cases that I work on. Okay. So I just communicated it through, well, I send the documents through the city, and then the city sends them out certified mail to the property owner.
Okay. And did you ever get a response? Did we ever get a response?
Not, I mean,
Other
my
than
understanding is following all the communication that I've seen, the only response from the property owner was after the property was remediated by the city.
Okay.
So, but within the given time frame, my understanding is there was no response from the property owner.
Okay. Anyone else have a question for Steve? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments that would like to be made now regarding this issue during this public hearing?
If I might?
Yes.
There is a public comment from a neighboring property owner, Sandy Johannes, and that is linked to the agenda. So if that could be entered in as public comment.
Okay. Do we need to read that?
I don't think it's necessary to read it. It
Okay.
can just be put in the minutes.
All right. If there are no further comments, then I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Kent.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
So then the next item there listed is discussion and direction. You want to
I might.
comment this time?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think we need to state how this hearing ended up on the agenda today. So it was right after the Board of Adjustment last week, Tuesday. Mr. Koister came in. I was gone already, but he came in and asked if he could speak to the council. Todd was up here, and Todd said he would need to come back this week. I did attempt to reach out to him and was unable to do so. I decided to go ahead and put it on the agenda. He doesn't, we aren't obligated to give him a hearing because he passed the opportunity to appeal when he had the opportunity to do so. So we can move forward, but in the interest of giving him ample due process, we decided to turn this into a public hearing. I also mailed a copy of the agenda and the relevant portion of the packet to his home for regular first-class mail. And I'd also like to state that when the original nuisance abatement went out, I taped it to his front door, and it was also sent regular first class. So I typically do that. I'll send a notice regular first class and certified, and ensure that it's received. The costs of the abatement are substantial. It was $2,095 is the bill, and so there was a lot of work that went into cleaning it up. If you look at the pictures and see what was hauled away, so.
Okay.
So really, there's really no discussion or action need to be discussed moving forward. It's,
No, since we've had the hearing and we're closing the hearing, I think it might be a good idea to have a motion, Micah, don't you think, that the council agrees that a nuisance exists, to have just a simple motion that says the council finds that a nuisance exists and city staff was okay with proceeding?
Yeah, if you're looking to ensure compliance with City Code 50.08, I would suggest that the motion be that the council takes notice of the comments and other evidence presented through Steve Hallgren and appended to the agenda, and further find that a nuisance does exist under City Code Chapters 50 and 105, and that therefore abatement would be proper.
I mean, you're speaking as if it's in future tense, but this has already been done, not?
You can put it in past tense if you like.
To me, that would make more sense.
Either way.
So are we setting a precedent that every time we go through an abatement, that we have to go through a hearing and a resolution?
I don't believe so. I think Sam put this on the agenda because of the unusual circumstances that he described, in that Mr. Koister showed up and asked to talk to the council. So out of abundance of caution, he gave an opportunity to do so. Today was that opportunity. And you've had a chance to take a look at what the issue is and confirm and affirm what the city has decided to do with this case.
Okay.
I would also note, if it helps you make a decision, that there is concurrently a case pending before the Iowa District Court Magistrate Division related to this issue. So additional due process is being afforded to Mr. Koistra in that arena.
Related to this, or?
Related to this.
Okay. All right, are there any more questions or comments?
What are the possibilities of where this leads? In other words, if we keep going here,
Your action, frankly, doesn't lead you anywhere because the abatement has been done.
yeah.
You're just confirming what's already been done, confirming that Mr. Koister had opportunity for a hearing. You have the option, if you feel the city was out of bounds, doing what it's doing, is so stating. But to do that, I think you would need to ignore some pretty strong evidence through pictures and other work that's been done here.
Anyone else? Right. Did you get the motion as Micah was stating it?
I believe I do.
Pretty well.
Council has taken notice of the comments and evidence and further finds that the nuisance exists. And I didn't catch those last two codes that you said, though.
That the nuisance existed, and a nuisance under chapters 50 and 105
Okay.
of the city code,
Okay.
and were thus properly abated. Past tense.
Yes. Thank you.
assuming it doesn't re-exist.
Assuming. That would be a new infraction or new violation.
If I might.
Yes.
That brings up an important point, is when we go to court, one of the things that we'll be asking for, which is what we've done in other cases, is for the ability with reasonable notice to go in and keep it clean. And if you ride by now, there isn't a whole lot that can be done about the painting that's occurring because of property maintenance code. We don't have a property maintenance code in Sheldon. We'd have to look to see if the way it's being painted fits other sections of the code. But with all the trash and other items on the front porch and on the north side of the house, there's already issues again today.
He was, Mr. Koister, at the Board of Adjustment meeting?
No, he came in after the meeting was over, and Steve and I were having a conversation about several zoning things, and I just said, hey, Doug, what can we do for you? I was like, I'm here to talk to council. We just informed him that they didn't meet today.
Okay. So has there been any other conversation with Doug regarding this face-to-face or phone call than that? Has anyone else talked with him, or has it always been through the mail? No. Okay.
Our police department has had some interaction with him.
Okay. All right. We have the motion suggested. We need somebody to approve, or offer that as a motion? That's what I'm asking, I guess. Somebody
I'll offer what
make-
she says.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
What is the motion?
Read it again.
The council takes notice of the comments and evidence and further finds the nuisance existed per code 50 and 105 and thus were properly abated.
I can support that.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eggers?
Aye.
Hamel? Snyder?
Aye.
Hinn?
Aye.
It's not, Ken, I have not forgotten, we'll make your item D under these under new business. Probably not exactly the right place, but that's how we'll do it. All right, next item up is a resolution directing the publication of notice of hearing on the adoption of the proposed Code of Ordinances of the City of Sheldon. We have a hearing tentatively scheduled for September 6th. We need to approve the resolution prior to that.
We do.
Any comments you want to make at this time?
Just one. Angie and I are working on a list that we're going to be sending to Iowa Codification or Simmering Quarry tomorrow of the subdivision and zoning ordinance amendments, since those need to be exempted from repeal. It's important, but it's a relatively minor step. So we should have the package available very soon. And the only changes that have been made since May are the legislative code updates, and then the few updates that you see in the memo that I linked this afternoon. So if we have first reading, the hearing and first reading on the 6th, you could have 3 readings if you wanted and still have everything wrapped up with a bow on it prior to the November elections and have this all wrapped up.
All right. With that in mind, I would accept a motion to approve the resolution as is presented in your agenda.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Then we'll have a roll call, please.
Hamel?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Hinn?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
All right, and then item C, moving on, a request for short-term street closures at the former Bethel site. Is there somebody that, from Bethel wants to address the council at this time? Hello, Gene.
Hi there, Gene Baumgars, representing Bethel Church. Thank you for the opportunity to be on the agenda. In response to last time that we met, I believe it was several weeks ago, we took to heart the recommendations of trying to get that lot seeded again. So on 8/10, we did work that ground and reseeded it, finished that up at about 8 p.m. Process was we worked the ground, we drug it with a drag, we seeded it, drug it again, and then rolled it. We used expertise from Dave from Holland and gave some of his ideas how to integrate that process. So that was seeded. We did get a shot of rain that night of the 11th, and then the 12th it did receive a half-inch of rain. So our request is we want to do everything we can. We don't know that that seed will grow because of the residual, but we're trying. The label says it has an 8-month residual, and we are at 12 months. It was planted in May of 2022. Or was it July of 22? July of 2022, and so it was sprayed then, and so we're hoping that that residual is worn off, but according to my agronomists and all the experts, depending on the amount of rain that happens in the previous year, the wetter it is, the more that would be diluted, but the drier it is, the longer that residual may stay. We know what our weather pattern has been, but we felt we needed to do that anyway, so we did work the ground, we seeded it. The seeding germination has between a 7 and 14 day germination process. There's a combination of some brome grass, bluegrass, orchard grass. It's a mixture. And so to try to get that to grow. Most of it, hopefully, you know, I taught high school here for 25 years, and we used to have a huge sweet corn operation. They still have the irrigation system. I've asked the individual that's replaced me, and we are okay to use that. My request is, if it doesn't rain on a regular basis, could we temporarily have a couple of street closures? And I think I put in the letter, I think you have a copy of the letter or the email that I sent. If the timing is an issue, I'd be willing to do it from 4 to 8 in the morning, which is not a high traffic time, to try to get some water on that, to do everything we can to get it to germinate and to grow. I did talk with Todd a little bit about that, and he said the way to go would be to ask here if that was even a possibility, so that's our request. I don't know the dates because that's going to depend on if it rains. So I would work with whoever the proper person would be. It hasn't rained for a week. Could we on Friday then do that? And I don't know if that's within the infrastructure of how this works, but that's our request, to try to do everything we can to get the grass to grow. And we still are at the liberty of knowing whether or not that residual effect is going to be there.
So Gene, the obstruction that you're trying to, that you're wanting the road to be closed for, is it just basically a fire hose?
Yes. We need to be able to find a water source, and this side of the block where we're on doesn't have a fire hydrant. It's across the street.
Okay. So is there an emergency issue with having the road closed during that time?
That's not our main primary route.
There's no blockage of fire plugs or anything of that nature? Okay.
I mean, we'll be able to get around. I mean, we don't use that 7th Avenue. We go 5th Avenue to the park and then around the park to the highway.
Okay.
So.
And if you're curious, the system that we use, I adapted it to do our sweet corn operation, so I extended the Rainbird on it. So it's called the KIFCO B110 if you want to look at it. It's the coolest thing. People will probably come to watch it get irrigated. So the hose will run across the street to where the unit is, and then we stretch it out. It'll cover 180 feet width, and it'll stretch out 330 feet. So it will take 2 passes, and depending how long it takes is how much water I put on. So the other question I would have is what's the current water rate, because I think we would need around 25,000 gallons to put a ½ inch on each time. And I assume you would meter it, but so when we did that a few times when I was coaching with Matt Mainery, a couple times we watered the practice field, so it works really slick. So, other questions?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Gene. I commend you guys for taking this action, taking it seriously, and we look forward to seeing some shoots of grass shooting up here in a few days. So, all right, we need a motion to approve the request.
So moved.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye. All right, let's go back then to that item J, the Class C alcohol license with the golf course and furnishing beer garden at the park. Comments you'd like to make, Ken?
I still have problems with that. When it was brought up last time, I will apologize to the council, and I'll apologize to the people out there. First time, the only time that I just skimmed the agenda, and that I missed that. It hadn't happened since, believe me. I've watched everything, so I still am opposed to the idea of the celebration days and changing the policy of the park on several reasons, because it's a family day. The park is for kids, and I realize years ago at Ragbri they made a one-day change for that, and once you set a precedent, and it just seems like it's so much easier to keep going. I think this is my 49th soybean days / celebration days in Sheldon, and it's just the last few years that we've had to have this that the city sponsored. And I'm not opposed to having things. I mean, I'm not denying anyone. We have an establishment across the park. We have places downtown. We have all kind of places that people can go. In the past, different businesses have sponsored their own event for this, and I have no opposition against that. But we have a policy in the city park, and I just think if we just keep going little by little and slipping, and one example that I saw personally at one time, the reason I want to, the city park is kind of special to me. I saw a young man there about 8 or 9 years old having fun with his friends, and his dad came to the park drinking, sit there and watching him, and the more he drank, the drunker he got. And I saw that little 9-year-old boy having to help his dad off out of the park and trying to get him home. And I do not think the park is a place for that, and I think we should set the rules. Someone called the police on that matter, and the police came and arrested the man, which I think in that case was the proper thing to do. But number one, the city park, I think we should keep that policy intact. Number two, the celebration days are for family affair. And if a business, if somebody else, we have places all over town that have license for it. And that's just my objection to it. And I wish some of the people, or many of the people who gave me a thumbs up on that issue, that came to my support and have called me and talked to me, I wish they would come and bring the support, because there's people, and even people I know that drink, they enjoy drinking. And they said that's still not the place for it, and it's not something that the city shouldn't be involved in. And so I still take that stand, and I just object. Just not for personal reasons much, just for the policy that we have intact. We've already seen the slippery slope a little bit last year, where it was a beer garden, and all of a sudden we had to have the hard liquor. And I can just see, eventually, where is it going to end? Whereas if we keep the policies intact and have these entertainers and that sort of thing, and other places that already have the license, I think it would be much better. And if it's about money for the city, then, if it's about the money, then Lord help us all. So, that's my statement.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't want to say no to the whole consent agenda just for that one
I
item.
understand. So, and that's why we allow for this type of thing, so we can have a discussion. Really, we have a motion to approve, or on consent agenda, the idea is to approve the request. I'm going to assume that's the motion.
You need to have a motion.
We need to have a separate motion now?
Yeah, you do, because
Okay.
you moved it to a different part of the agenda.
Okay. So,
I have a question, it's not a new license, the golf course is moving their license to the park for that temporary event, is that how that works?
Yeah, just like you've been moving other
They're
licenses.
applying them for a temporary license.
I guess I'm sitting here trying to think where there would be a space that would be large enough to do that, and I can't offhand think of one. So,
perhaps the pavilion grounds, I don't know.
pardon me?
The pavilion grounds, maybe, but,
It's a limited time frame. You have to be 21 to get in. IDs are checked to get into the so-called ball field.
Alcohol cannot be removed from the premises, right?
Yep.
could you repeat that?
Alcohol cannot be removed from the
Oh.
premises, stated
Was.
area.
On a few occasions.
There's always exceptions, but
Yeah.
it's not legal.
That's right. Are they taken care of?
Well, I think last year we talked in regards to the enforceability aspect of it, and I believe Chief Birch stated that they had not seen problems beyond manageability in relationship to maintaining that perimeter and any activity that might be caused by, the act of drinking too much, okay? So we do have police there to
And there were a
monitor
few
it.
instances, nothing major, but all it takes is one major,
Right, right,
one bad apple can spoil the whole thing for everyone.
right.
And so,
Fully
It's
understand
not
that.
there.
Fully understand that.
So Ken, to do this in proper order, we really should have a motion, and since you requested that it be taken, have a separate discussion on it, I would then ask you to make the motion as you desire it to be.
Well,
What?
isn't the motion to approve?
We have to have a
We have
separate
no
motion.
motion.
Right, we have to have a
Anybody can make a
motion.
motion.
Anybody can make a motion.
Anybody can make
Okay,
Anybody
is
can
there a
make a
motion
motion.
then?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay,
And I'll second it, and now that opens it up for
For
discussion.
discussion, right. And
And we've already probably
I
had some of the
say,
discussion.
I repeat what I said before without repeating it.
Right.
yes.
I have no problem if people want to. I'm not trying to, no judgmental. I mean, people have fun in different ways, but I think the city park is not the place for that.
Any further comments or questions? Then we'll have a roll call, please.
Snyder?
Nay.
Hint?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
All right. And then let's move on to reports. Todd, you're listed as the first one here.
All right. Trying to lighten the mood here a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to give you a little update on some projects that are going on, and then also just some activities in many of our public works departments. So I'll start with water. If you've been by the water plant recently, you'll notice that a bunch of block is getting repaired on the outside. Once that block work is done, then we're looking to actually repaint the whole plant, spruce it up, get it looking good again. Later this year, they're going to replace the roof over the filter and pump room, so that's a project we're looking forward to. The plant improvements, we're working on plant improvements inside right now that will allow us to blend our well water with the Lewis and Clark water once it gets here. A bunch of the plumbing is in, some of the VFDs are actually installed. No pumps are on site yet, but the project is on pace to be done prior to Lewis and Clark getting here. Speaking of Lewis and Clark, the pipeline from Hull to Sheldon is actually all installed except for 4 road bores. They still have to bore Highway 18, the Matlock Blacktop, County Line Road, and then Old Highway 60 and the railroad tracks. Those are scheduled to take place around the 1st of September. Once that happens, then they need to flush and disinfect. And then what needs to be finished for us to get water from Lewis and Clark would be pumps installed into a booster station over by Hull. And then the water tower is painted and up, but they're working on interior electrical and plumbing and those type things. So those are the last pieces to us getting Lewis and Clark. I fully anticipate that we should, well, I'll say we should have water this fall, but worst case scenario next spring. And most of us have been saying, well, Todd, you've been saying that since 2012, but this time I think I actually mean it.
It's close.
Yeah. So anyways, our water tower, as some of you I'm sure saw, it is up, and they actually finished welding, I'm told, yesterday. So the job site will sit idle now for about 2 weeks. Painters are scheduled to come in the last week of August. Once they're done painting, I think they need maybe about a 5-week window, assuming good weather. And then the other trades will come in and start some interior plumbing, electrical work, control work, those kind of sort of things. So that project is moving along extremely nice. They're about 30 days ahead of schedule of what they initially provided us when they come to start. If weather would stop them from painting this fall, then all of a sudden it'll likely fall into June or July of next year before it's ready to use. So we are really hoping that they get it painted here in late August, early September. One last thing we got going on in the water plant itself, we're currently in the process of a SCADA update. SCADA is the control that we use to monitor all the wells, all the pumps, the towers, so on and so forth. The guys all have remote access via smartphone, iPad, that kind of sort of thing. It's been really nice. It data logs all of our charting of tower levels and gallons per minute and gallons per day that go out the door. So that system was becoming quite old, and now it was time to update that. So Thompson Innovation out of Sioux City is in the process of doing that. And then lastly, unfortunately, as you accepted the resignation tonight, we are currently advertising for a water position again. So if anybody is ambitious and would like to work with our wonderful team, send me a resume or an application. I'd be glad to take a look. Wastewater. Recently, we've been doing a lot of maintenance jetting, so one wastewater employee and one street department team member have been out doing a lot of jetting around the community. They got about 50% of it done, and then we had to stop them. When you maintenance jet like that, you pull a lot of extra load down the lines. Therefore, it can upset the bug life at the wastewater plant. So at the request of Dean Paulson, superintendent, we shut them off for now, and we're hoping to get started again later this fall once the plant is healed up a little bit. Thorman Avenue and NCC lift stations, those projects were close to being done, and as I'm sure you've seen, I know Brad has because it's in his neighborhood, they had quite a bit of defective work. They are back on site. They are working to correct those things. It's not going quickly, but they are on site, and they've had three people on site every day for the last several weeks.
You can't see the top, you can't see the excavator in the hole.
Yeah, it's deep. They're like 28 feet in the ground, and I could talk for a long time about that, but it's probably best I don't. Anyway, so the good thing is the contractor is being responsive. They're here. They're working towards a solution to fix them. Just in case you're curious, yes, we're tracking all the extra engineering fees and everything, and those will not be at our expense. I&I. So I&I is inflow and infiltration. We try to do a little bit of I&I work every year. This year we're going to actually do a smoke testing project. We plan to do the majority of the north side of town, north of Highway 18 this year. After the smoke testing is completed, then we'll go through in camera areas where we saw issues to get a better idea of what we're up against, and then we'll start those repairs. Prior to smoke testing, we'll do some public notification. We'll notify the fire department because, for instance, if your sump pump is hooked up or your basement floor drains are dry and we smoke test the sewer, you could have smoke in your home. So we'll send out some information so people know to go run some water in their traps, that kind of sort of things before we start doing it. It's a good way for us to find cross connections. It's a good way for us to find failures in the pipe. We believe there might be a storm sewer somewhere actually hooked up to our sanitary system. So this would be a good way to find that, because when you smoke the sanitary, then smoke comes out of the storm, and voila, we know we've got an issue at this intersection. So we'll get going on that hopefully up this fall. And then recently at the plant, we have a very large bar screen that has an automatic rake in it that removes impurities from the sewer stream. It broke the other day, and a representative from Vulcan out of Council Bluffs came up to take a look at it. And he looked down in the hole, and the first thing he said is, "Wow, I've never seen that before." That is not what you want to hear when a repairman comes to your plant. But anyways, we helped him get the rake out. It had an 1.5 inch diameter shaft that snapped clean off right at the housing. So once the parts come in, we will help them get that reinstalled. And otherwise, things at wastewater are coming along quite well. Street department, you may have noticed this spring, we already did quite a bit of asphalt overlay work this spring. I put on here, we have a bunch of chip sealing to be done yet, but actually they came to town and started today. So they'll be chip sealing today, tomorrow, and hopefully done by the morning of Friday. So several blocks of the community getting done with that. You also may have noticed we've been doing a lot of painting lately, so we've been painting parking lots, stop lines, crosswalks, getting ready for the school season, which is right around the corner. Been working on a lot of small patches here and there and some gravel road improvements
in certain areas as well. The contracted street patching project on East 6th and 23rd and 26th Avenue is basically done. There is some corrective action there that needs to be done as well. We're going to make them tear a few panels out of the 23rd Avenue intersection because we always had a drainage problem there, and lo and behold, we still do because they've got a low spot in the panel. So we're going to make them tear them out and get that fixed so it properly drains to the stormwater intake. Traffic signals are up and running. You may or may not notice the first couple weeks, I'll say anyway, that they were up, they were operating, but they weren't operating the way we designed it and the way I told you they were going to operate. As of Monday afternoon, they are now operating the right way, meaning Highway 18 has green light unless there's north or southbound traffic. And then at that point, it'll run through the cycle if there's traffic on both sides, but if there's only southbound traffic, it'll let that traffic go and then go right back to Highway 18 green. It won't take the time to cycle through the other turning movements. So that way we keep Highway 18 moving as efficiently as we can. And I did observe it today, and it is actually working that way now. Parks.
Todd, can I ask a question
Yeah,
about the
absolutely.
new lights?
Interrupt whenever.
I'm sorry you're on a good roll. I hate to get you off of it, but
That's all right.
one thing I've noticed with the, on the eastbound, when you have a red light, you have a red light and a green light for the turning lane to go south, towards McDonald's or Taco John's or whatever else. Can you stop and still turn right on red?
Yeah, so if you have a red, you must stop, but then, and check, and then as long as it's not posted no right on red, you may continue.
Even though there's a light that will turn green?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's the purpose of having the light there?
To get people to stop in case there's oncoming traffic.
Oh,
Because
okay.
at that point, you've stopped and you need to check to see if it's actually safe for you to proceed.
So
or not.
one red light doesn't dictate that both of them need to stop, both lanes need to stop?
Correct, it's an individual per lane, yep.
All right. Very
Yep.
good.
Yeah, and one thing that I think confused some people on that light in the beginning is on north and southbound traffic, only one left and through lane gets to go at a time. So only northbound or only southbound. And the reason for that is that it's always a protected turn. That way we don't have people out in the middle of the intersection fighting over who's going first. So it'll take, I'll say, small town to get a little bit used to that, but go to any city, that's how the lights operate. So, anything else on that?
Thank you.
You bet. Parks. Not a ton of activity this summer in the parks, some small maintenance projects that Dean's been working on. A couple things I want to mention though. Hills Park, we got approval actually last week from the park board. We plan to close Hills Park on September 18th. The reason for that is the tree service is going to come in and we're going to remove several ash trees out of Hills Park and also several of those really dangerous big cottonwoods. And at their request, they don't want people obviously in the park during that. So we're going to close the park while they're in there. At that same time, we'll actually then close the bathrooms. We'll reopen the park once the tree service is done, but we will not reopen the bathrooms. Then we're going to start a remodel. New doors went in there this spring. Now this fall, the entire interiors will be getting redone. Storm sewer project, you may have noticed 7th Avenue and 11th Street has been tore up for a period of time. They are getting close. The storm sewer is all installed. The structures are all installed. Basically, they need to pour the road back and re-gravel the section that was granular. That project got started about 30 days later than contractually it was supposed to start, and it was due to material deliveries. We did not penalize the contractor for it, and I don't intend to, because once they got the materials in, they were there, and they got through the job in good time, I feel like. Recreation, the rec team has obviously had a bunch of programs all summer. They're on a little break right now, but fall and winter programs are right around the corner. There's lots of registrations out. And just as a reminder, since we brought the rec coordinator position on full time, now that they've had some extra time, they've been helping us out and taking care of some of the extra park duties. That's working well. Reminder of the pool. The pool's last day is scheduled for Sunday, August 20th. Once the pool closes at 5 p.m., a doggy dip starts at 5:15, so If you have a friendly dog that wants to go swimming, bring it on out, free of charge. Cemetery, the North Road, we've been budgeting a little bit of money every year to get that North Road in and concrete. It's finally done. So yay for that. So we're glad about that. The rest of the roads we'll start to redo in smaller chunks of just asphalt. I think that North Road that runs east and west is the only one that we really need to concrete. And that's basically to take the weight of the farm equipment that goes into the hayfield and whatnot. We will continue with some more tree removals this winter. You guys approved that in the budget, so probably another 30 or 40 trees will disappear. There's some pretty nasty looking ones out there. And that's really about it. So that covers the majority of projects that are going on. There's obviously a ton of day-to-day activities. I'd be up here an awful long time if I've shared all those, but with that, I want to take one moment, I guess, to thank our Public Works team. Their knowledge, skill, and commitment is part of what makes Sheldon great. They certainly make my job a heck of a lot easier. So I just want to say thanks to them, and then open up if there's any questions.
In light of the rainfall in the last, 30 days, maybe not, are we still on the voluntary water watch?
We are absolutely still on a voluntary water watch, and I would recommend we stay that way until such time we see Lewis and Clark water. The last 2 years, we were down several inches, and I don't know the number off the top of my head. I believe right now we're actually only a couple, 3 inches above normal for the season. It certainly has not made up for the shortage of the last several years. So we intend on, Keith Van Drager and I, the water superintendent, have talked about it, and we intend on staying until such time we receive Lewis and Clark, and then have at it. We should have plenty of water at that time.
Any other questions for Todd?
Keep up the good work. Staff seems like they're always busy doing something throughout the community.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Appreciate it.
All right, Sam, anything from you in your reports?
I just want to say what a great team we have, and I appreciate the report that Todd just gave, and I also appreciate working with him. I think he does a great job. I had a conversation with Mark Brown earlier today, and we were talking about with the tax credits that were awarded last week for downtown and out at Crossing for Prairie Trail 2, plus Bethel, plus the lots that have been sold. I think, he said 50, 60 units within the next year?
You can get up to 63 pretty quickly.
It's amazing. We have a lot going on. And I also very much appreciate Steve Halgren, who's here today, and the work that he does for us, helping Todd and I. It just takes a big load off of our shoulders. We don't know how we did it before, and we're now able to be a lot more proactive with our code enforcement, and there's a lot that you don't hear about, but hopefully you're seeing the effects of cleaner properties. So, thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Mark, anything you'd like to share with council at this time? Okay. Angie?
No, thank you.
Micah?
No, thank you.
Council to my left?
No, thank you.
To my right?
No, thank you.
All right. There was an email from Sam encouraging participation in, if at all possible, as a volunteer in celebration days. So I just want to reiterate that, make that available, not only to council members, but if we could get the word out through the press and the radio station, that would be helpful. That's not far away, so it takes the village to make that happen. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Support. Roll call, please.
Hager.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Hamel.